Streaming now, this is the Wood TV Live Desk.
A lot to talk about with the pictures or pictures. Okay, everybody ready? Okay, we'll go ahead and bring up the images now. And so again, we are not able to release the entire video as it's still being analyzed at this point, very soon after the investigation started. But what we do have are a couple images that this is one of the vehicles involved. And I'll explain a little bit later of how that vehicle is involved. This is not an outstanding vehicle at this point. This vehicle is in possession of the sheriff's office, but this is the initial vehicle that begins the shooting at the high school. You want to go to the next one? This is a white Hyundai. So what this picture shows is that white vehicle entering into a scene. This is immediately following a graduation ceremony, approximately 30 minutes after the end of the ceremony itself. As you can see, there's still a number of people in the area. This is a location that's adjacent to the Kentwood High School stadium. And again, the graduation ceremony itself started at 6 p.m., ended at about 6:50 p.m., and this is at 7:20 p.m., 1/2 hour later. This is immediately before the incident begins. You'll see the Honda is proceeding into the area, and we'll go to the next.
And for your reference, the stadium over here on the left, people are exiting to the right.
So this next this next picture is right before the initial, actually right during when the initial shots are being fired. You can now see people reacting to the shooting that's happening. And in that white Hyundai, there are at least one person leaning out the window in this image, starting to shoot in a direction towards a subject that's back closer to the stadium at this point. By the time that car leaves the area, multiple individuals have shot from this vehicle. So then the next shot, and again, this is immediately, is this one immediately following?
This was about a minute later.
Okay, so this is about a minute later as our first units are showing up on scene. We had 2 officers who were here on scene when the incident happened. They were within the stadium. They were doing what we call a special event security detail for high school graduation, which is a pretty normal thing to do. We'll augment security staff. So they were inside the stadium. Their first indication there was an issue were the shots fired, and they started to run out. So they were here initially, and then 1 minute later, we had our first 2 cars showing up on scene. And then subsequently, obviously, you saw we had a pretty large response last night. Go in. And again, this is the second vehicle that's involved. First vehicle is a white Hyundai. This is a white Mercedes. The white Hyundai carries people into the scene. Several of them shoot. This is a car that is used for the other parties that were shooting back to escape the scene. And that vehicle was later brought into possession of the Sheriff's Department late last night out of the city of Grand Rapids. So both vehicles are in custody. And again, and this is just more images of our response as it started to unfold. And I'll read the statement, and then again, I can answer any questions you guys might have, but this kind of gives more continuity to everything that happened and the flow of things. So we'll go ahead and start with that statement. Yesterday evening at about 6 p.m., Kentwood Crossroads Alternative High School was holding a graduation of around 400 people. The event started at 6 p.m. and ended at approximately 6:50 p.m. At 7:20, so now this is a half hour after the end of the ceremony when people are still in the vicinity, Kent County Sheriff's deputies who were working with security staff at the event reported hearing shots being fired outside of the stadium. They responded on foot to the location of the shots and were able to see a white sedan fleeing. So that's the Kia. I'm sorry, the Hyundai. Several witnesses called 911 reporting the same. 2 victims that were shot had already left the scene and went to the hospital on their own. They did not report the injuries on the scene. It appears the groups of suspects pulled up in a white Hyundai sedan and started to shoot out the vehicle. As the vehicle sped away, another group in attendance at the graduation started shooting back at the fleeing car. It appears the groups of suspects may be known to each other. The group in attendance that fired on the Hyundai fled the scene in a white Mercedes sedan. Kent County Sheriff's detectives are developing suspects from the video, and we believe that there were as many as 5 shooters in this incident. The white Mercedes was located in the city of Grand Rapids during the overnight hours and is now in our possession and being processed. The white Hyundai was located abandoned on the 6100 block of Kalamazoo Avenue. This Hyundai was a stolen vehicle out of the city of Kentwood. Bullet holes were found in this vehicle and is now being processed by the Sheriff's Office. It's believed that this white Hyundai has been involved in previous stolen vehicle theft incidents. A 16-year-old male was shot in the wrist. He's been released from the hospital. A 40-year-old female was shot in the abdomen and the wrist, is in stable condition, but still hospitalized. This was an obviously brazen act as it jeopardized the safety of many of our community members. Police were already on scene for the event, and additional resources were on scene within 1 minute. This appears to be a targeted shooting, and no additional threats towards students or staff have been found. We continue to ask the community to help identify anyone they know was involved and help bring closure to this event. Any photo or video evidence can be uploaded via our Sheriff's Office link and will be published by multiple media outlets and our Facebook page. I'm ready to answer any questions you might have.
You said 5 shooters between these 2 cars?
Yes.
I assume, okay. And when might we have a better description on these shooters?
Soon. We're hoping soon. We're still analyzing the video. We do have some images that we're trying to piece together still, but I am not ready to confirm that those are indeed suspect shot.
So you said the 16-year-old who shot was targeted. Was he in any of the vehicles leading up?
We don't know that the 16-year-old was targeted. We know that the 16-year-old was shot. He may have easily been shot by rounds in the area and may not have been one of the targeted individuals.
So at this point, we think both of those 2 people who were shot are still innocent bystanders? Or?
It's possible, yeah. We don't know their connection. We don't know of a connection. And because we don't know exactly who's involved yet, we obviously can't interview to find out who their target was.
And it was a Suburban that was shot up, right?
There was a number of vehicles in the parking lot that received damage. There was a Suburban that had glass shot out.
Is there any thought that this is connected to some of the other homicides we've seen? You know,
it's certainly an avenue we have to fully explore. There are some similarities. There has been an absolute increase in violence in the greater area, and we look to find those connections on every single one of these cases. So it is very possible.
Are you going to be stepping up security at other events like graduations moving forward for the summer?
So it is a normal occurrence for us to work with security staff at schools to help secure graduations. Generally speaking, we will follow up directly if there's any specific threat, but generally having standby resources available and securing events is a process for us.
Is there any reason to believe that the white Hyundai was in attendance of this ceremony, or did they come after?
We were able to see them approach the event and then leave the event in this car, so no, they were not in attendance.
You may have said this or implied this, but were both cars, did they both have Michigan tags?
I didn't say that, and I don't know.
And was it Grand Rapids police that came across these cars overnight, did you say, or how was that?
The Hyundai was abandoned in the 6100 block of Kalamazoo behind a business, so general patrols were able to spot that one. I don't know how the Mercedes was spotted in the overnight hours, whether it was Grand Rapids or Kent County. We did have a vehicle description out to other area law enforcement agencies, so it is possible somebody else came by it.
Is there any reason to believe any of the suspects were hit in this gunfire as it's going back and forth between these 2 cars?
We have no additional reports of parties responding to local hospitals, so I can't answer that question. There were a number of rounds fired. It's certainly feasible that others were injured and have not sought medical attention.
How frustrating is it if in fact it is that there are two innocent bystanders leaving a graduation ceremony, these two groups of people are shooting at each other, and they, for all intents and purposes, aren't at the hospital right now?
Right.
Is that a frustrating experience?
Absolutely. I mean, there was a complete disregard for the safety of individuals who are unrelated to this, this connection between these two groups. So, you know, our concern always is to protect the community and to make us feel safe as we're moving about our daily activities and enjoying time with our family and friends. And they took this opportunity to capitalize. And it really is difficult as a community to process the loss of safety that happens with that. That's why it's very important for us to bring this case to resolution, all cases to resolution, and make sure that justice is served and individuals know that their safety is important to us.
And was the white Mercedes there the whole time attending the graduation ceremony?
The members of the event who evacuated in the Mercedes were in attendance at the graduation. I can't answer whether the vehicle was there the whole time. When we spotted the vehicle, it was in the parking lot adjacent to the event, but certainly the people who got in it and left were in attendance.
Is that where the first shots were fired, at the Mercedes, or?
No, not at the vehicle. They were fired at individuals who were standing in the vicinity of the stadium. The Mercedes was used as an escape vehicle. The parties were outside of any vehicles when they were first shot on.
So have you talked to anybody who thought that they were targeted? You haven't talked to anybody who was there?
We've talked to a number of people. Nobody has articulated the fact that they were being targeted in this event.
Cooperatives? Is everybody being cooperative?
I would say largely we are receiving a lot of cooperation. Certainly a lot of the video evidence that we're collecting is from Kentwood Public Schools. Their staff has worked with us very closely to make sure that we can bring resolution to this and that, you know, obviously they can protect the safety of their students, their families, and the community at large.
Is there any initial belief or reason to believe the weapons used were maybe semi or automatic weapons, high-powered?
We have a number of round types that have been found on the scene. There's at least 4 different types of rounds. They all belong to automatic weapons. So to that extent, yes, we do believe we have been able to see at least one weapon that has an extended magazine on video. That's one of the things we're still trying to assess. But yeah, certainly there are some very, very dangerous weapons that were involved in this incident and most incidents like this.
And that's got to be really alarming.
Of course. You know, again, our whole goal is to be guardians to our community, and it's difficult to do that when there's this type of jeopardy that can happen in a public place.
So and you can correct me if I'm wrong, does it appear as though that these people were waiting at this graduation ceremony and this Hyundai knew that and then comes into this situation where people are already gathering to celebrate an accomplishment? Without
knowing exactly who's involved and why they were involved and exactly what their intended target was, I can't answer that question, but how it appears is that there were people in attendance at the graduation and this white Hyundai is coming to make contact with those individuals while they were at the graduation. So whether they knew they were here or just saw them and recognized them when they got here, that part's not clear, we don't know. But what we do know is they seem to engage this group of people when they got there.
And you have both vehicles, and there's nothing in those vehicles that would suggest that any of them were shot.
I don't know the contents of any of the vehicles. Those are still being processed, so that's certainly something we'll look for. But I don't have any information about any suspects being shot.
Did all the shots come from the vehicles, right?
No. There were shots that were returned to the Kia, or to the Hyundai, I'm sorry.
And those people were shooting, they weren't yet in that vehicle to get away?
Correct.
Okay. And can you talk again about the Hyundai when it came up and you said a guy was hanging out of it? Can you tell us a little bit about that again?
So when the vehicle passed by the group, somebody was hanging out of the front passenger side shooting.
So if they're in attendance at this graduation ceremony, do they have guns on them at a school at a graduation ceremony?
It would lead me to believe that yes, they did.
Can you talk to me about that? That's a school.
It's a school. Certainly dangerous individuals who are illegally carrying weapons don't have regard for rules often, very often. So that's certainly a concern to us for safety, but it appears they had weapons at that graduation and after when this event took place.
Do you know how many people were in each vehicle?
I can't answer that question yet.
Okay. And do you have a general age range for?
I do not have.
Do you know how many shots were fired? No.
We are still in the process of collecting rounds and trying to determine how many shots have been fired, but many, many, many shots were fired.
And those people that were injured, they were at the graduation, not just one?
I believe they were both in attendance of the graduation. And again, they evacuated to hospital on their own.
And there's no connection between them, right?
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
Between the two victims.
Right.
No, they were in two separate locations. They don't appear to be related. And they did not evacuate to hospitals together.
Do you know how far away the people were that were being shot at the beginning? Were they right by each other, or?
I can't answer that question.
Not good shots, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Right there.
Is there a plan going forward for the rest of summer? We've already seen a lot of violence. Is there other initiatives that are going to be stepped up, not just necessarily school functions, but extra units in certain communities, extra vigilance in trying to get guns off the street, anything like that, after seeing a couple of homicides already and an incident like this?
Right, so what I would have a hard time saying is extra vigilance, because we have a lot of vigilance to try to keep these crimes from happening or continuing to happen if they start. I think we've talked a little bit about our pattern crime unit that we've started. These are the types of cases that they analyze, and certainly if there's a pattern of crimes such as this, getting it early in the pattern reduces the number of people that will be exposed to being victimized. So that's certainly our effort. I can say from the sheriff's office, and I know every other area department as well, we've really focused our resources on resolving this issue as quickly as we can to prevent, the follow-on issues that might happen after that. So I'm committed to bringing this to resolution as absolutely soon as possible. And I've had detectives literally working on it all night and then back again this morning working on it. And we're trying to get information to you because communities are who keep communities safe. The more involvement we have from our community, the more input or evidence or statements that we get, the more likely that we're going to be able to successfully bring these cases to full resolution. Not just one or two parties being held responsible, but every party being held responsible.
I know we don't have specific suspect descriptions yet, but what, if anything, can you tell me about development of suspects?
So we are trying to develop information from the video, and obviously, this is a video that's shot at a very far distance. So some of the things that we're looking at would be trying to tie it to other pictures or other things. So that's kind of what we're trying to work on right now.
Was the 40-year-old woman, was she the mother of someone graduating, or do you know?
I don't know that answer.
And is this part of this rash of stealing cars and using them in drive-bys? This has been going on, right?
Yeah, I think there's a high likelihood this is connected to those incidents. The Hyundai is one of the vehicles that we have seen over, not that particular vehicle, but that type of vehicle that have been stolen. So I do think it could be related to that. Certainly it is often that individuals who are planning to do some kind of gun violence are doing so in a stolen vehicle. We've seen that pattern over the last couple years. We're certainly seeing that already this year and into this season. So,
are you talking about Hyundais specifically, or just sedans? You said we're involved in these.
This Hyundai, or a car similar description, has been involved in other stolen vehicle reports.
Any connection to I think was it a shooting at Krispy Kreme, Chick-fil-A?
Certainly that will come after we're able to develop suspects. Similarity in nature, obviously there appear to be random shooting at maybe a specific target, but not taken into account the safety of others. I mean, certainly there's similarities to those cases that we'll explore, but until we develop suspects, it's really hard to say what it's connected to.
Do you know when that Hyundai was reported stolen and how long it's been missing from?
I don't have that information. I know it's reported stolen out of Kentwood.
And so just so we're clear, did you say that Hyundai was previously in previous shootings, or?
No, I didn't say previous shootings. We know it's been related to a previous stolen vehicle report. Okay. And that type of vehicle has been reported stolen in a number of cases around the community.
But those two vehicle descriptions don't match the shooting Susan was talking about, the Krispy Kreme?
I can't answer that question. That's a Grand Rapids case. But again, without the development of suspects, it's very difficult to tie them together, and there are not enough specific descriptors that it's an immediate connection.
Is this graduation ceremony open to anyone who wants to attend, or is there a list of people who were in attendance?
There is not a list of people who are in attendance, and yes, it was open to anybody who wanted to attend. It's a rather small class, so they didn't have any need to contain the capacity or anything. I believe 75 students graduating.
You said like 400 people in attendance or something? Would you suggest otherwise in upcoming events that it be?
I think it's most important to evaluate safety provisions specific to the school and the actual circumstances, any prior threats that it might be, or populations that we believe to be at risk. So I wouldn't give an answer on that.
Do you know how many people were milling about when this happened?
As you can see in the image, we believe there to be about 400 people that are in the immediate vicinity when things are starting to happen. But when I say immediate vicinity, some are other parts of the parking lot, some are immediately there in the parking lot, some are still in the stadium and kind of still moving out. There's a couple other events that are also going on coincidentally at the high school at this time. So there are people in the area when this is happening on, even if they weren't in that immediate space.
Now there's a group of, 800, 900 seniors at East Kentwood High School who didn't get their last day of school today. Anything to talk about, how this doesn't just affect the people involved, it affects a lot of people.
The trauma of violence to a community is pervasive, and it's something that we always have to be conscious of. That's why it's so important to bring these kinds of cases to resolution as soon as possible, because it avoids further victimization, and it avoids the unknown of having an outstanding risk that has to be factored into. Specifically for those seniors, unfortunately, we had a lot of work to do in that area that we had to do without it being interrupted. So I do feel very badly they didn't get to have their last day of school. I think we all remember our last day of school, and it was important to us, and it's been a loss for them. Missing anything?
No, I think that's good. Again, I'll get those, give me a minute, I'll get those high-res images in the rooms, and I'm an official news release, and on, at least for right now, on Twitter, is that link where if a citizen wants to just from home upload a photo or a video, goes directly into our evidence system, so it's easy and secure for them. That's on our Twitter. I'll get that over to Facebook here in a little bit.
Make sure and plug Silent Observer. If anybody doesn't want to give their name, they can contact us through Silent Observer. We do get that information very readily. But certainly we're excited to take the calls at our detective bureau too, where a detective can talk to somebody.
Is that woman's injuries non-life-threatening?
Certainly there's secondary issues related to being shot with a gun, but she underwent surgery yesterday and is considered stable today, so I would say the immediate risk isn't there.
I think you said at the beginning, was the 16-year-old released?
Yes.
Okay. Do we know if he was a student at the?
He was not.
Okay. Is he a Grand Rapids native? Do you know where?
He's not. He's actually from Texas.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that was mentioned.
Yep, he's from Texas.
Can you repeat, I'm sorry about the condition of the woman when you were answering John's question?
So she had a significant injury. She was shot in the abdomen. She underwent surgery yesterday. She's listed in stable condition. But John asked me if it was life-threatening at all or serious at all. So I really can't speak to what her recovery will be like. She underwent surgery, so.
Is she stable or critical?
She is stable.
Stable, just stable, okay.
I think serious but stable is how they listed her. Oh, critical, I'm sorry.
Okay, critical.
Critical but stable.
Do you know if you guys were able to get any information from the 16-year-old about what he may have saw?
I can't speak to what he specifically said. We good?
Yeah. I always, word pictures help me, so I just more so you guys understand, she already said it. Just remember, so when you have these photos, stadium's here, parking lot's here, the actual high school's behind me, if you will. White car's in the middle, it's starting to fire rounds here, and then there's that group that exits the stadium that are out there somewhere, and they're shooting back at that car. So, just so you know, so if you need help describing it to someone, the car is shooting first at people, and there's people from this other group that are not in the car that start shooting at the car as it leaves.
Is it the white car on the left or the white car on the right?
Right there.
Right there, got it. That's
So if I back up one, it's up here. So it's starting to come in the parking lot. That next photo, it's about there. You can see everyone ducking and running about now. There's people out in the grass, laying down, ducking. So it's here, and then that vehicle continues at a high rate of speed, right out this way.
And do you have any idea where the folks who were shooting back are?
That's what our investigators are, that's what they're doing, so.
As you can see, there's a lot of moving parts that they're trying to really drill into.
So this is pointing north and they're coming in off 60th, is that?
East. This is looking northeast, if you will.
Yeah.
60th Street would be up this way.
The suburban that I talked about, can you see that in this frame?
I don't think you can.
And then overall, how long between when the first shot was fired and when that car is gone, would you say? How long was that?
30 seconds. Not even.
Yeah. If this picture, if this image was, within a minute, that patrol car arrived within a minute of the shot being fired, they were gone.
So we have this video, plus we have the audio from, we aren't releasing the audio yet. There's not really any aha moments on it, but from our officers who are in the stadium who start to report the shooting, and then as it stops, so we can hear like all of that transpire. It's a very short period of time. Our officers, the responding officers, arrive on scene within a minute. This car has already exited and is on the adjacent roads.
And the white Mercedes is not a stolen vehicle.
It is not.
Where were the cars recovered from?
I'm sorry?
Where were the cars recovered from?
Yeah, can you repeat that?
Yeah, 6100 block of Kalamazoo is the Hyundai, which is the shooter vehicle, and the Mercedes was recovered in the city of Grand Rapids.
The Mercedes was, the guys were shot at? The guys
Yes.
that ran? Okay.
Yeah. But who also shot?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they was return fire.
Right.
Does it look like the guys that got shot at were the return fire, that they were the targets? I mean, were the shots fired?
That's what we're trying to figure out. We literally have to analyze this frame by frame, location by location. And there were a lot of blurry eyes on it last night.
Yeah, that going on.
Right. We all set? All right. Thank you.